What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the economic calendar moving forward, what's going on with other factors following the markets, what you should be watching for as time progresses. But before I break things down with some information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, deposit $100, you're guaranteed 7 free stocks. And the offer ends very soon, in just about 9 days from now. Anyways, for the market, my analysis is going to be very concise, very simple, and very understandable. I'm going to be very blunt with what I think is going to happen. But I first have to talk about some economic data, break down what's happening so far with our news and such before I break down what's happening with the charts. So tomorrow I have a big warning for everyone. We have a lot of these Fed speakers speaking tomorrow morning. The market's going to open as it normally does on Monday, May 20th, 2024 for tomorrow. At 8:45 a.m., 9 a.m., and 10:30 a.m., we have Bostic, Barr, Waller, and Jefferson giving speeches. A bunch of Fed speakers a little bit before the market opens, going into the first hour of the trading day. Then at 11:30 a.m., we have the 3-month and 6-month bill auctions coming out. After all of that, we have Bostic giving a speech. So it's going to be all Fed speakers tomorrow. They're going to continue to say what they have to say. Looking at the way things are looking, the inflationary data was not too bad. So most of these Fed speakers are more incentivized to be a little bit more on the dovish side, especially because historically, most of them that are speaking are not like extreme hawks usually, especially like Barr and Bostic. So we'll see what this leads to, at least for the market moving forward. Will they pump stocks even more? We'll just have to wait and see. Now, for more data about the markets, I want to make it very clear that tomorrow is going to be Monday. We have Wix and a few other earnings coming out like Zoom. For Tuesday, we have lots of retail coming out, such as Macy's, Lowe's, and AutoZone. And then for Wednesday, we have Target, TJ Maxx, and a few others for before the market opens. And then after market close, we have Nvidia and Snow also announcing their earnings. Please note that Nvidia is going to be very important. Nvidia is going to be a big earnings report. Whatever they say is going to have a big effect on whether or not the market continues to pump or if we get a big rug pulled throughout the markets. We'll just have to wait and see. Right now, the market's very, very greedy. We're seeing a lot of greed stepping in, making up the majority of sentiment, and we're starting to see big shifts over here. Momentum is very greedy as well. Buyers are continuing to develop and try to hold on to their positions. And the puts and call option positioning is also on extreme greed right now. So this is very, very greedy. We're starting to see more puts being closed, more calls being bought, and they're actually making up the majority of the option chain, at least for now, when it comes to the overall picture. And then we also have the VIX continuing to dip right now. It's still looking kind of bearish. We're approaching some key supports that we've been at for like 2023 and such. So the VIX is very, very low right now. We'll have to watch to see if there's any reaction, but there's no sign of a true bounce yet. So what do I see happening for SPY? Is SPY about to see a rug pull or not? What is my personal opinion? The best thing to do is wait for market open. I anticipate there's going to be a push coming to the markets a little bit higher, and we'll have to see if SPY establishes a lower high or not. So what essentially happened was I mentioned to everyone that 531.5 could be a temporary top on SPY, at least last week, and then we might see a little dip, right? What happened to SPY? We hit this level and we got this dip all the way down to about 527. So we did get the dip. We got a 4-point dip on SPY. That was what we predicted. But then once we got the dip at the very end of the day, especially when you look at the 4-hour time frame, this is showing signs of a bounce now because we have this nice liquidity grab over here. They grab liquidity down here. By grabbing liquidity, they could be getting ready for a push to the upside direction. And it's no coincidence considering the fact that we have a bunch of Fed speakers. So I anticipate, this is my prediction, it's very simple. It's going to be based, based off like two different things, by the way. So we're going to get a push tomorrow, in my opinion, a push to the upwards direction, right? Because we got this move downwards. We grabbed liquidity down here. So I think SPY is going to push upwards like this into the 530 area. All right, that's what I expect for tomorrow, but I do not know for sure if we do end up completing this like imbalance fill. I don't know if we're going to continue to push and break the all-time high because of the Fed speakers and then just continue to go higher from here. I don't know if that's what's going to happen like this, or if we're about to get a little rejection and then make our move right back down, right? It's got to be one of those two as the most likely possibilities. So it's very simple to go about this. It's very, very simple. You're going to be looking for a push tomorrow morning. I think we're going to get this push and watch, does SPY establish a lower high compared to the all-time high? If we don't break the all-time high, we kind of reject here. This could be a sign that SPY is showing a little bit of weakness, and we could be making our way back down to 528 or below if we fail to break past this imbalance and we fail to break the all-time high. So watch for that very carefully. It's very, very simple, if anything. All right, and these levels are based on what we saw historically and also based off some key fib levels, but mainly just based off historical data. So look for a pop tomorrow. Do we get a rejection, establish a lower high, and start coming back down? Or do the Fed speakers pump things so much to the point where we don't just go up to this imbalance fill, we end up kind of coming down a little bit, and then we start pushing higher, and we break the all-time high. If that's the case, we could easily go up to about 532 or even the mid 530s if we just keep going. So I'll be watching to see what the move is. But it's very simple. Look for a push tomorrow morning for the first hour. I think the market's going to push higher, and we're going to be looking for a test. These two possibilities have one thing in common. That's going to be this nice push that's coming. So I expect that as the next move. I personally don't know how the market's going to react to the Fed. Will the Fed cause us to push a little bit and then get a rejection, a big rug pull, or will we kind of push up higher and then continue to push thanks to the Fed? We'll have to wait and see. It depends on what these Fed speakers end up saying. So watch for that going into tomorrow. That's the most likely possibility. A push higher to resistance, and we'll see if we get a rejection or not. But that's what I do see coming on the charts moving forward. How about Tesla? How is Tesla looking? Honestly, guys, it looks more bullish than bearish because we're forming a cup and handle like structure. We have this nice little cup over here. We're forming like a handle, and we could actually push a little bit higher. On top of this, we have a nice inverse head and shoulders accumulation structure. So this is favoring upside a little bit more. On top of this, historically, the closer we get to June, Tesla is historically a lot more bullish during that period, and we have a lot of imbalances to fill on the 4-hour time frame. So as far as Tesla goes, it really depends. My analysis is very simple on Tesla. As long as we hold above 172 and 175, this whole range, we have upside potential. If we lose 172, we turn back to bearish, and yes, Tesla could start dipping down to 168 to fill its gap. And that could depend on a lot of news. If we end up breaking out and break above 180 and we hold above 180, we're very bullish. I could see 185 coming. So break 180 and hold it, and I see 185 coming. Lose 172 and I turn more bearish, and I think we could come down to fill the gap at 168. What do I think Tesla's going to do? In my personal opinion, as of right now, it looks to me like it's going to kind of dip a little bit, grab liquidity near our key EMAs. And as long as we don't get bad news tomorrow, I think we could easily start pushing up to about 182 again, if not higher levels approaching Nvidia's earnings to form the cup and handle and kind of fill this imbalance at 185. Now, Nvidia's earnings on Wednesday will determine if this continues to push or if we get a big rug pull. So we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. But for now, as far as Tesla goes, there is more upside potential than downside. We're forming a lot of wicks. Look at all these wicks. The 4 hours showing life, and we have a cup and handle like structure after getting this breakout from this trend line. So the odds favor a little dip and then a bounce and a push a little bit higher for Tesla, in my personal opinion. How about Nvidia? Nvidia might actually help the market to some extent because, first off, let me actually kind of close this real quick. Nvidia looks to me like it has a nice uptrend being established. Look at the uptrend on Nvidia, looks pretty good in my personal opinion. I think Nvidia will kind of drop a little bit to adjust this trend line, unless I try to kind of like adjust this a little bit. But we're kind of close. We're not exactly there yet. So I think that going into tomorrow, okay, Nvidia might dip a little bit more, get very very close to our 50 EMA. All the way where this yellow trend line happens to be at this 908 area, might dip a bit more towards 920 to 908, this range right here, then try to bounce and start pushing up higher towards 930 plus. I anticipate there's going to be a little bit of a dip and then a nice little rebound after that. So watch to see if we kind of dip and then bounce, and we'll watch to see how things go from there. We also have this imbalance on the 4-hour time frame around this 935 area, and we have support at this trend line. So I think we're going to dip a little bit and try to rebound. And Nvidia may continue to uptrend approaching its earnings on Wednesday, because a lot of people are going to be very hyped about that. So I wouldn't be surprised if we dip and then bounce on Nvidia, which could help the market to some extent. But whether or not this continues depends on how their earnings go. For the triple Q, it's the same thing. I do want to note that the triple Q looks a little bit weaker than SPY. So we had this high at 454, we kind of rejected here, but we have this liquidity grab. So I wouldn't be surprised if we actually rebound a bit towards 453. And we'll be watching to see, do we fill the imbalance and break the all-time high? If that happens, we're easily going to 455.5 plus or higher. If we establish a lower high, if we hit the 454 zone and maybe a little bit lower, and we fail to break the all-time high, look for a rejection and move back down towards 450. It's very, very simple. The same thing as SPY, in my personal opinion. There is a potential liquidity grab, but the trend is more bearish looking than SPY's, so it's not looking as strong as SPY. Will we, when we get this little rebound, do we establish a lower high like this, just like this? Maybe we attempt to fill this imbalance and then reject back down, or do we get this little rebound first? So I do anticipate a little rebound. Do we break through this and the Fed speakers help us go a little bit higher thanks to Nvidia? That's going to be another very important factor. Now, whether or not we continue this trend is also going to depend on Nvidia's earnings on Wednesday, so that's going to be key for us. But look for a rebound tomorrow thanks to our liquidity grabs. We're going to rebound to the 453 zone possibly, and we'll see if we get a rejection or not. That's going to be key for the way we end up moving. For Apple, it's still very indecisive. We have resistance at 190.5. We have support at 189. We've been trading sideways for quite some time between this range, and there's not really anything else that's going on thus far. Because we're stuck in this range, there's not really much going on with Apple, so we'll see how things end up going. And because we're kind of stuck, I'm just going to make it very clear that Apple is just continuing to trade sideways. So we'll just have to watch and see which direction it breaks to determine what the bigger move is going to be. If it breaks 190.5, we're bullish. 192 is coming. If we lose 189, we can turn bearish, and 188 is coming. We're just going to be completely stuck for 3 straight days. So I'm just going to wait and see which way we break. It's just a game of patience for Apple. Bitcoin looks to me like it's kind of coming down a little bit off a little bearish divergence. Could dip a little bit to fill this imbalance towards 65,500. And then we'll see what happens after that. It might dip a little bit and try to rebound, but I do see potential for it to get a little bit of a dip. A small little dip could be coming. All right, so we'll be watching for that. As far as the market goes, it depends a lot on what the Fed speakers say. So that's the reason why I'm kind of analyzing things in this manner. And then with that being said, now let's just focus on other factors, at least for the markets. So for Palantir, we're actually on a slight uptrend right over here. We also have a potential looking bullish wedge that's forming, but we have resistance at 22.15. If it breaks 22.15, we're going to be looking for a push for 22.5. And if we end up losing 21.6, we're going to be dipping all the way down to 21. I think that personally that there is potential in Palantir to turn a bit more bullish. So we could be breaking out towards 22.15, a little bit higher if we do get that break. So we'll just have to wait and see how things end up going. On top of that, for Super Micro, I just want to make it very, very clear that as of right now, we are on a bit of an uptrend right here. We're just slowly making higher highs and higher lows. We have support currently at 848, and we have resistance currently at 8 I'm sorry, at about 9:30. So with that happening, we look a little bit more bearish on our 4-hour time frame. I think that we're going to look for a retest of 877, a little bit of a dip, and if we get a bounce off 877, we're going to go back up to about 900. If we lose 877, we're going to be dipping all the way down to about 850. I favor that we're going to dip a little bit, and we'll see if we get a bounce off this. It might try to bounce a little bit thanks to Nvidia, so watch for that. But there might be a little dip coming to 877 first, and we'll see what happens after that. For Rivian is also looking like it has a little bit of life developing right here. If we continue this push, I'm going to be looking for a test of about 1070. And if we end up getting a rejection, lose 10.4, we're going to be dipping all the way down to 10.2. So with that happening, I think that there's potential for 10.7. We'll have to see how things kind of respond or not. And I'm going to be very, very patient, open-minded nonetheless. But I do see a potential test of 10.7 coming, and we'll see what happens after that. For SoFi, SoFi has resistance at 7.38. If we break this, we're going to be looking for a push for 7.6. We have support at 7.23. It's been trading sideways within this range for quite some time. I do see potential for it to go a little bit higher, try to fill this imbalance, but not really much is going on. It might just continue to trade sideways for now. Very, very tight price action. Look for a dip towards 7.19 and a bounce back up. For now, it's not really doing a whole lot. With IWM Russell 2000, this is still technically on an uptrend. As long as we're above our 20 EMA, there's potential for it to continue to pump all the way up to about the 211 area. But it all depends on how we react to our 20 EMA on the 4-hour time frame. If we close below 207, we're going to be dipping all the way down to 205. If we hold 207 and start bouncing intraday, we're going to be looking for a push for 211. We'll be watching to see what the move ends up being, so we'll be very, very patient nonetheless. For AMD could be testing around 162. If we lose this, we're going to be looking for a dip all the way down towards 160. And we have resistance currently at this 167, 168 area, basically. So looking at the current trend, I would say that we're looking a little bit more bullish, at least on AMD. We have a nice inverse head and shoulders, but for the short term, it's going to depend a lot on Nvidia's earnings. I think we might get a retest of 162 and then kind of continue to shuffle in our range in the mid 160s for some time. But if Nvidia does very well with earnings, this could also start pushing all the way up to fill this imbalance. If not, it's going to be dipping back down. Technically speaking, the chart looks a bit more bullish, and we could be looking for a push all the way up to these higher levels. For ARM, ARM is actually testing our 50 EMA. We're currently at about 110. That's going to be our support. That's also previous resistance becoming support. So I think that if we lose 110, we're going to be looking for a dip all the way down to about 103. If we bounce off this, we're going to be pushing all the way up to about 120. I fear it's going to dip a little bit more. It might actually test 108 or so, maybe go a little bit lower to 105 before it tries to bounce. So it looks a little bit more bearish to me. It might see a little dip first before it tries to get that bounce. For Coinbase, we're trading sideways within a range. We have resistance at 211. We have support at about 193. We're kind of stuck right now. We did see a kind of flat day We're kind of green a little bit for Friday, but overall it's just stuck within a range. So it's very boring for now. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually test 211 and just continue to trade sideways. So I see some sideways price action, nothing too crazy for the charts as of right now. For Amazon, we have resistance at 185.5. We also have support at 180. I think Amazon's going to push up to 185.5. And if we reject off this, we're going to be dipping back down to 183. If we break through this, we're going to be pushing for 190. Overall, watch for a big test of 185.5. A little bit of a push on Amazon before we see a reaction. For Meta, we're kind of stuck in the middle right now. You guys can see that we're actually on a very, very decent sized uptrend right now. But we have resistance around this 480 zone. We have support currently at 469. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually kind of push back up to 478 and come back down, just continue to trade sideways, and then we'll see what happens after that. For Microsoft, in my personal opinion, is also in a very, very interesting place. Looking at the share price, give me 1 second, guys. Sorry about this. I just want to make it very clear that the market's in a very, very pivotal place, and we'll just have to give the market the time it needs to make the moves that it has to move. Anyways, going back to Microsoft, I had a little glitch for a second. Sorry about that, guys. We're currently testing our 20 EMA. The trend is still bullish overall on the chart, however. It's still bullish, so there is still potential. If we lose 418, look for a dip for 414. If we bounce off 418, we're going to be pushing up to about 420. The chart is bullish. It's making higher highs and higher lows. There's no sign of it breaking down. It looks to me like it might try to get a bounce and push up for 425. I still favor upside a little bit more. Looking at Alphabet, aka Google, Google's looking a little bit more bullish as well. If we lost 174, look for 171. And if we continue to hold, we could continue to push for about 180 plus. I do see potential for it to go higher. The share price still looks bullish to me. For GameStop, I think that GameStop's approaching some key support. We're going to be looking for a test of 17 before it tries to bounce. So I think it might test 17 then bounce. So watch for that on GameStop. AMC, it's no different. I think that we're going to be testing 3.93 and then try to bounce off that. So I'll be watching for that. For DJT, I know a lot of people are interested in this. I think that as far as the share price goes, we're still very stationary. It's a little bit more bearish looking. I think we might retest our 50 EMA at 49.8 and try to bounce. So look for a little bit of a dip. For the VIX is on a bit of a downtrend right now. We're barely holding 12. We actually lost 12.4, the lowest level we've seen in the history of this year. The entire year, it's never been this low, guys. In fact, we never saw the VIX this low for many years. It's been a long time since the VIX was this low. So we're hitting lows on the VIX as the market's hitting all-time highs. And as of right now, it's looking weak. There's no sign of the VIX bouncing yet, so we have to give this some time. The 10-year Treasury yield is going to be heavily dictated by what happens with the Fed tomorrow. If they, remain more hawkish, we could see this actually try to bounce and start filling some of these gaps. If it rejects off our 20 EMA, then that can mean that the market's going to kind of like drop and then pop again. For the dollar index, we're also kind of on a bit of a downtrending for now. So we'll see how this affects the markets. We're going to be testing 105. If we break through this, we could be looking for a push for, I'm sorry, not 105, 104.5 is going to be our resistance. If we break that, then 105 is coming. If we reject, we're going to be dipping all the way back down towards lower levels like 104.2. I'll be watching to see what the move is, so be very, very patient, and we'll see what happens from here. But with that being said, guys, I want to say that I really appreciate every single one of you. Thank you all so much for listening. The market remains bullish overall. There's going to be a little push coming, but we'll see if we establish a lower high or not. I'll be waiting very, very patiently. Okay, so this is the best way to look at things. Market's going to push higher and watch and see if we break the high. If we break the all-time high in SPY, we're going to be continuing to push. If we make a lower high, there's going to be a chance of a rejection, so I'll be watching to see if that ends up being the case. The reason why I'm kind of giving both sides is to try to be unbiased, and also it's because we have a bunch of Fed speakers. I can't predict everything the Fed is going to say. I can't predict everything Jerome Powell says, for example. I can't predict everything that Janet Yellen says. I can't predict everything about what they say, so I just have to wait and see what the reaction is. That's why it's best to be unbiased and prepared for anything at this point. But just know I do expect a little bit more of a push, so expect some upside on Monday. Then we'll see how anything else happens. Thank you guys so much for listening. Have a great rest of your day. I hope you guys have a great Sunday, and I'll see you guys very, very soon tomorrow morning before the market opens. Thank you for listening again, and peace out.